Hello again, Hill family. Welcome back to your daily reset. On today's video, we're just going to go through a quick little stretch session for our upper bodies. It's going to be focusing mostly on our forearms and our upper back. If we're feeling a little bit sore in either of those areas, this is going to be a really nice video for you. So let's hop right into it. We're going to start on hands and knees. And the way I like to set up, we're just going to bring our knees right underneath hips. And then hands can just start right underneath our shoulders right here. So we're getting in a nice stacked position. But for our first one, we're actually going to come onto the back side of our hands. We're going to flip our hands over. And if you want to, let's walk hands actually a little bit closer towards our knees. And then from here, I'm going to think about pointing the inside of my elbow forward for wherever I'm facing. So I'm going to kind of rotate into the ground. Like I'm already feeling a nice little stretch there in this side of my forearms. So you don't have to take it too much further, but if you want to, what we can do is try to drive our hips back, almost kind of rock back. And so if our wrists come off the floor, that's totally okay. And you're just going to feel that nice deep stretch in the back side of our forearms. So we're going to spend just about a minute here, either again just kind of pausing in that top position, rotating our elbows to face forward, or we can try to keep that position and rock back. So nice and gentle, don't have to go like super far into this one. Continuing to think about just locking our elbows out as much as we can, just to get as much of that stretch and our weight of that stretch into our forearms. All right, then let's go ahead from here. We'll flip back over so that we're on our palms, but now I'm going to turn hands out. So fingers are going to face out, and then they're going to come to face towards my knees. We're going to flip that stretch onto the opposite side of our forearm. So again, I'm going to think about keeping elbows locked out, inside edge of my elbow, or that kind of crook of our elbows facing forward. And then same thing, we can stop here if that feels like plenty of a stretch for you. No problem. Otherwise, we can start to add that rock back and rock forward again. We'll try to glue our wrists down towards the floor as much as we can, but if you start to rock back enough that they come up off the floor, that's okay. And either way, you're going to get the same effect. After about a minute in that one, you can kind of sit back on our heels for a second, shake the wrists out. If you want to kind of clasp hands, roll the wrists out a few times if that bothers your wrists at all. You can always take time getting in and out of those positions. But once we feel good with that, we're going to move into a child's pose variation, but we're going to target the upper back. So let's bring knees a little bit wider now than our hips. Toes can come back together behind us, just to create a little bit of a kind of a platform for our hips to sink down onto our heels, and we can just reach arms as far forward as we can, let our chest sink through towards the floor. And let's just take a few deep breaths here in a basic child's pose. And then from here, we're going to keep our hips back on our heels, and we're going to start to walk both hands over towards our right. So if we've got a yoga mat, let's walk our hands far enough over so that the hands kind of get off the yoga mat. And then with our right hand, we can place that on top of the left hand just to kind of get ourselves to relax deeper into that. So again, dropping chest towards the floor. And we'll take about 5 nice deep breaths in that position. Should mention, if child's pose ever bothers your knees, you can always start these same things from starting with just hips right over our knees. And so we can do the same thing. We can walk hands forward, we can walk hands over to the side. So that is perfectly valid as well. And if you need extra padding for your knees, you can always add that in. But from here, if we're in that child's pose, let's go ahead. Slowly we'll bring hands back to center for a moment, and then we'll take them over to the left. So same thing, if we've got a yoga mat reaching off that left side, and then we'll take left hand plop it on top of our right. Beautiful little stretch here into our big lat muscle that runs down from our armpit all the way into our lower back. Alright, let's walk hands back to the center, and then we'll slowly drag them back up. Walk them back in. For this next one, we can take a seat however we'd like. We're just going to finish out with a little bit of stretch more for our upper back again. It's called eagle arms. It's a pose in yoga, but we're just doing the kind of the top half of it. So to start, I always like to bring my arms out to a T, just because it makes it the easiest to set up for. So if I'm doing this on my right side, I'm going to bring my right arm under, and then right arm over, so kind of start with arms crossed. And then I'm going to bend both elbows so they come up towards my face. And then here's where it's going to kind of vary. So if we want to grab just thumb onto our pinky, if we can get that, that's okay. If we're just here as well, let's just go ahead and cross hands onto our upper back. So if we can't get finger to thumb, let's just cross. But if we're here and that feels okay, and you want to go for getting our full palms together, let's go for that. I'm going to face this way, but wherever I am, kind of in whichever variation, let's go ahead and lift elbows up to shoulder height. And then let's think about pressing our elbows away from our chest as much as we can. So we're going to maybe start to feel a stretch in the back of our shoulders, maybe into like our trap, so that muscle that runs from our neck to our shoulders. So again, really just thinking about actively pushing elbows away from our chest. All right, let's slowly release out of that. Whew. You can shake out the arms a little bit. And again, we'll start from a T, just a little bit easier to get into it, and this time we'll bring left arm under. And then again, we can either hug, or we can go pinky to thumb, or if it's available to us, we'll go full palms together and then kind of rotate so that our thumbs are facing towards our forehead and pinky fingers are facing away from us. But wherever we are, let's lift elbows up, shoulder height. And then actively think about pushing elbows away from our chest. Bring that stretch to the back of our shoulders into our upper back. And then just about 5 deep breaths while we're here. All right, and we'll slowly come on out of that. It's a pretty intense one, so let's just kind of roll the shoulders a few times, backwards and forwards. Ooh, all right. So guys, that is all I've got for you. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks for taking a little bit of time for yourself, and I will see you again soon.